Hello guys, welcome to my channel where stories filled with revenge, moral lessons, and love are told. Before we begin, make sure you like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe so you never miss any of our heartfelt stories. The rain had been falling for hours, painting the streets of London in slick, shimmering silver. I was seated behind my desk in the corner office of Rankin Enterprises, signing off on contracts and thinking about my next meeting, when the door to my office cracked open. My assistant, Harriet, peeked in with a curious expression. "Sir, there's a child here to see you," she said, her voice hesitant. I frowned. "A child? What do you mean, a child?" "She says she has an appointment with you," Harriet replied, glancing over her shoulder. "She's holding the resume." Before I could respond, the door opened wider, and in walked a little girl, no taller than my desk. Her dark hair was tied into two neat braids, and she wore a faded blue raincoat that looked a size too big. She clutched a manila folder to her chest, her brown boots squeaking softly against the polished floor. "I'm Lillian Hayes," she said, her voice steady but quiet. "I came to apply for a job." I blinked, thinking this had to be some elaborate prank. "A job?" She nodded. "Yes. My mom is very sick, and I need to help pay for her medicine. I can do anything. Make coffee, sweep floors, and carry papers. I'm a fast learner." I leaned back in my chair, studying her. There was something about her eyes, clear, bright, yet carrying a weight no child should bear, that rooted me to the spot. "And where are your parents?" I asked gently. "I only have my mom," she said without hesitation. "She works a little, but she's too sick most days. I want to help her. She doesn't know I'm here. She'd be mad if she found out." I opened the folder she handed me. Inside was a piece of paper carefully typed out, listing her skills in a child's scrawl. Things like, good at carrying bags, can keep secrets, knows how to answer the phone politely. My throat tightened unexpectedly. This wasn't just a plea for help. It was a child trying to shoulder an adult's world. Something tugged at my memory, a flash of warm laughter, the smell of lavender shampoo, and the sound of a camera shutter. 7 years ago, in a garden in Florence, I had met a woman whose smile could light up the darkest hour. Her name was Devon Elizabeth. We had spent 3 unforgettable weeks together before life tore us apart. I had buried that memory deep until now, because as I looked at Lillian, I saw Devon's eyes staring back at me. I cleared my throat. "Lillian, what's your mother's name?" She hesitated, as if unsure whether she should answer. "Devon Elizabeth Hayes," she said finally. Her name was like a punch to the chest. I sat very still, my mind spinning. Devon. 7 years. Lillian's age. It all lined up too perfectly. "Does your mom know me?" I asked carefully. She shook her head. "I don't think so. But she talks about Italy sometimes." Italy. My pulse kicked up. I couldn't ignore this. Not the resemblance, not the timeline, not the fact that this little girl had walked into my office like fate itself had led her here. "All right," I said finally. "How about this? You don't need to work for me, but I'd like to take you home today, so I can speak to your mother. Is that all right?" Her eyes widened. "You won't tell her I came for a job, will you?" "I won't," I promised. Harriet offered to drive us, but I insisted on taking Lillian myself. The rain had slowed to a drizzle by the time we pulled up to a modest flat in Camden. Lillian led me upstairs to the 3rd floor and knocked softly before opening the door. Inside, the air smelled faintly of chamomile tea and something medicinal. Devon stood in the small kitchen, her hair tied up messily, her cheeks pale, but her presence unmistakable. She looked up, her eyes meeting mine, and froze. "Joe," she breathed. I stepped inside slowly, my gaze drinking her in. Time had touched her, but it had not dimmed her beauty. "Hello, Devon." She looked between me and Lillian, realization flickering in her expression. "What are you doing here?" "Your daughter came to my office today," I said gently. "She was looking for a job, to help you." Devon's face tightened. "Lillian," she said sharply. "I told you." "Mom, I just wanted to help," Lillian protested. "You've been so tired lately." I thought. "Enough," Devon said, her voice breaking. She turned away, gripping the edge of the counter. I stepped forward. "Devon, is she mine?" She didn't answer right away. The silence stretched, heavy and suffocating, before she finally whispered, "Yes." My chest tightened, emotions colliding inside me: anger, regret, disbelief, joy. I looked at Lillian, who stood watching us both with wide eyes. "You should have told me," I said quietly. I didn't want your money, she replied, her voice hardening. I didn't want your world. I wanted her to grow up with love, not with boardrooms and headlines. I could have been there for her, I said, my voice rising despite myself. Devon's hand trembled as she poured herself a glass of water. You weren't there for me, Joe. You left. Her words sliced through me, and I didn't argue, because in some ways she was right. I had let her slip away, thinking it was for the best, never realizing what I was losing. But now I wasn't going anywhere. I crouched down to meet Lillian's gaze. I'm your father, I told her softly. She blinked, absorbing my words. Then, without hesitation, she wrapped her arms around my neck. In that moment, with her small heartbeat thudding against my chest, I knew there was no turning back. Whatever battles lay ahead, Devon's illness, her pride, the years we had lost, I was going to fight for them. Both of them. And this time, I wasn't going to lose. Devon's kitchen felt smaller than I remembered from any space we'd ever shared in Florence, though back then. Everything had seemed large because our days were filled with light and possibility. Now, the cramped flat in Camden carried an air of exhaustion, and there was something unspoken hanging in the air. Lillian busied herself making tea, climbing onto a step stool as if she had done it 1,000 times. Devon sat at the small table, her hands curled around the edge, avoiding my eyes. I didn't want you involved, she said finally, her tone measured but carrying weight. You've built a life in another world, Joe. Lillian doesn't need the drama that comes with it. I don't care about drama, I replied quietly, my gaze fixed on her pale face. She's my daughter, and I should have known. I could have been helping you all this time. You're helping now, she said, a slight tremor in her voice. And that's enough. But I could see it wasn't enough. She was thinner than I remembered, and her skin had the faint, dull hue of someone who'd been battling something for far too long. There were pain lines around her mouth, and the tea she sipped didn't disguise the fact that she was hiding a cough. When Lillian excused herself to her small bedroom to organize her school bag, I leaned forward, my voice low. Devon, tell me what's wrong. She hesitated, her eyes flicking toward the hallway to ensure Lillian was out of earshot. It's complicated, she whispered. I've been ill for a while. The doctors say it's cancer ovarian. It's advanced, and treatment is expensive. My stomach dropped. Advanced. She nodded. I'm still working when I can photograph gigs, small shoots, but the treatments. I can't afford all of them. I've been spacing them out. That's why I didn't want Lillian to tell anyone. I want her to have a normal life for as long as possible, without worrying about me. The room seemed to still around us. I could hear the distant hum of the refrigerator, the faint patter of rain against the window. Every instinct in me screamed to fix this, to throw every resource I had into saving her. But I knew Devon. She would fight me on it, pride stiffening her spine. I can pay for it, I said simply. Her head snapped up. No, that's not why I told you. It doesn't matter why you told me, I said firmly. Devon, you are the mother of my child. I won't stand by while you get worse because of money. She pressed her lips together, her eyes glistening but defiant. And what happens when the money runs out? When you get tired of this responsibility? I've raised her alone for 7 years, Joe. I can keep doing it. I shook my head. You don't have to. The conversation ended there, but I didn't let it drop. Over the next week, I began showing up more, picking Lillian up from school, taking her to the park, helping her with homework. Devon kept her guard up, but she didn't send me away. Each day, I saw her exhaustion grow more visible, and each day I resolved to act before it was too late. The breaking point came one Friday afternoon. I arrived to find the front door ajar. Inside, Lillian was crying, shaking Devon's shoulder on the living room sofa. Mom, wake up. Please wake up. I rushed forward, my heart pounding. Devon's face was pale, her breathing shallow. I scooped her into my arms without thinking, telling Lillian to grab her coat. At the hospital, the doctors moved quickly. I stood outside the room with Lillian, holding her as she trembled. A doctor emerged, removing his mask. She's stable for now, he said. But she's severely anemic. The cancer has progressed, and without aggressive treatment immediately, her prognosis isn't good. Lillian looked up at me, her small voice breaking. Don't let her die, Dad. It was the first time she had called me that. The word tore through me like both a blade and a bomb. I won't, I promised, my voice rough. The next day, I sat in the hospital's legal office with a solicitor. I arranged for temporary guardianship of Lillian, in case Devon's condition worsened suddenly. It wasn't about taking her away, it was about protecting her, making sure she wouldn't end up in the care of strangers if the worst happened. Devon was furious when she found out. "You think I can't take care of my own child?" she snapped from her hospital bed. "I think you're sick, and I'm not willing to risk her being alone," I replied, keeping my voice steady. Her anger slowly gave way to resignation. "You're not going to leave, are you?" "Not this time," I said. Within days, I had arranged for her transfer to a clinic in Switzerland, one of the best in the world for her type of cancer. Devon resisted until she saw Lillian's tearful face, pleading with her to try. The flight to Zurich was quiet, the hum of the engines a strange backdrop to the shifting dynamic between us. Lillian fell asleep against my side, and for the first time in years, I looked at Devon and didn't see just the woman I'd lost. I saw the woman who had carried my daughter through years of hardship, who had fought alone because she thought it was the only way to protect her child. In Zurich, the treatment began almost immediately. The clinic overlooked the snow-covered Alps, a view so pristine it felt surreal against the reality of our situation. I rented an apartment nearby, making it our temporary home. Lillian decorated her room with drawings, and Devon, though tired from treatments, began to smile more often. Some nights, when Lillian was asleep, we'd sit on the balcony in silence. It wasn't the comfortable silence of lovers. It was the tentative quiet of two people standing on the edge of something fragile. "You don't have to stay here the whole time," Devon said one night, her voice almost carried away by the cold wind. "I know," I replied. "That's why I'm staying." She looked at me for a long moment before turning back to the mountains. It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet. But it was a start. The weeks in Switzerland felt like stepping into another life. The white-capped mountains framed every window, and the air smelled clean, almost medicinal in its purity. Devon's treatment schedule was intense, but with each passing day, a little more color returned to her cheeks. Lillian thrived in the calmer environment, her laughter echoing through the apartment as she told me about her new friends at the local international school. I made it my mission to be there for every moment: school drop-offs, clinic visits, even the days when Devon was too tired to speak and just needed someone to sit quietly beside her. We were no longer two separate worlds colliding. We were beginning to orbit each other, drawn together by something more than circumstance. One afternoon, after a particularly encouraging doctor's appointment, Devon and I walked slowly back to the apartment while Lillian stayed behind at an art class. The autumn sun cast a golden glow over the cobblestone streets, and Devon's scarf fluttered gently in the breeze. "They said the tumors are shrinking," she murmured, almost in disbelief. I smiled. "It's working. You're winning." She glanced up at me, and for the first time in years, there was no trace of the guarded expression she'd worn like armor. "You've done more than you realize, Joe. Not just for me, for Lillian. She's our daughter," I said simply. "Everything I do for her, it's the easiest decision I've ever made." Devon's steps slowed. "I used to think love like ours was something fleeting, something meant to be remembered, not lived again." She looked at me, her eyes shimmering. "But you've changed my mind." That night, I found myself replaying her words long after she'd gone to bed. For years, I had carried guilt for not chasing her when she left Florence. I had told myself she deserved better, that I'd only hold her back. Now, I saw the truth that what she had needed wasn't distance. It was someone willing to stay through the storms. By December, Devon's strength had returned enough for us to travel back to New York. I insisted they move into my penthouse not as charity, but as a home where we could all be together. To ease Devon's pride, I gave her the entire west wing of the penthouse, complete with its own kitchen and studio space for her photography. Lillian adapted instantly, filling the rooms with her drawings and her chatter. Devon began taking on photography projects again, and I caught her smiling behind the camera, her eyes alight in a way I hadn't seen since Florence. One evening, after Lillian had gone to bed, I asked Devon to meet me in the private garden atop the building. It was the closest thing I had to the Tuscan gardens where we'd first met, with ivy climbing trellises and lanterns casting a warm glow. She arrived in a simple cream sweater and jeans, her hair loose around her shoulders. "What's all this?" she asked, her voice laced with curiosity. I took a deep breath, reaching into my pocket for the small velvet box that had been burning a hole there for weeks. This is where we start again, I said. Not where we left off, better than that. We've been given a second chance, Devon. I don't want to waste it. Her eyes widened as I dropped to one knee. Marry me, I said, my voice steady but thick with emotion. Not because of the past, or even because of Lillian, though she's the best part of us, but because I love you now, more than I ever have. For a long moment, she didn't move. Then, slowly, she smiled, a real smile, warm and sure. Yes, she whispered. Yes, I'll marry you. I slipped the ring onto her finger, my hands trembling, and she pulled me up into an embrace that felt like the closing of a long, painful chapter and the opening of something entirely new. When Lillian found out the next morning, she screamed with joy and threw her arms around both of us. Does this mean we're really a family now? She asked. Yes, I told her, looking at Devon. For always. The wedding was small, held in the very garden where we had first met in Florence. Devon walked toward me with Lillian as her flower girl, and I knew, without question, that every misstep, every lost year, had led me exactly where I was meant to be. As the vows were spoken and our hands joined, I felt the weight of the past finally lift. Love, I realized, was not just about passion or perfect moments. It was about choosing each other every single day, even when it was hard. Especially when it was hard. When the ceremony ended, the three of us stood together, watching the sun set over the city. Devon's hand rested in mine, Lillian's smaller hand in the other, and I knew this was the life I had been searching for all along. Moral lesson. Life rarely gives us second chances, but when it does, they're not meant to be wasted. Sometimes the people we love most aren't lost. They're waiting for us to find the courage to fight for them. Pride can protect us, but it can also isolate us from the very hands that want to lift us up. True love is not about grand gestures alone. It is about showing up, day after day, when it's messy, complicated, and imperfect. Family is not defined by where we begin, but by who we choose to stand beside when the storms come. And healing, whether of the body, heart, or spirit, always happens faster when it's shared. Hello guys, thank you for watching this story. If it touched your heart, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, share it with your friends, and comment below the most powerful lesson you're taking away. Your support means the world to us, and every story we share is another chance to remind someone out there that love, resilience, and second chances are real.